Does this count as off-roading? Wait, hold on, let me stand up. Have I earned my Starbucks latte? I wasn't even in off-road mode. That was sport. I'm dangerous. Some notes while I'm thinking of them. 8 hours in, I just now have the slightest pain in my butt. Normally it's around hour 3. Just the slightest pain in my back. That's normally around hour 2 or 3. In my wrists, there's nearly nothing on the left. I'm not being cheeky, but a lack of cruise control. My wrist on my right side, my hand is getting a little stiff, a little numb. I just want to show you, this is the little patch of mountains we're heading into. And yes, I did say little. That's a reminder. This is Japan. And one pro for this bike is I can much more effortlessly get to places like this and far more extravagant. I can get to places that snow in July. Alright, if you can see here, 13.2 liters got me 315 kilometers. That's not bad, but let me hop back on the bike. Part 5, the bike I rented. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these. There are 2 things I really want to get into before I get carried away about the bike, and about where I'm not quite sure I understand some of the complaints that are popular online. Let's wave through the construction. Thank you very much. It is never difficult to say thank you to someone, even if it is their job. In this wind, in this cold, they're outside. So the first thing I want to dig into is the suspension. It's trash, it's crappy, it's budget, it's unadjustable. I remember my MT being the same thing, and it was kind of bad. I remember my wife's SV being the same thing, and I never once thought the suspension was not good. It was never too hard, it was never too soft, and I'm finding this to be the same. Now, I have not gone off-road, so feel free to comment that. I don't know what I'm talking about, but as far as the street, I just don't find the suspension to be that bad. Now, if I bought this bike, I might change my mind in half a year, and 5 years. It may come to a point where it's like, it could be a little more plush here, a little firmer there, but it's not near the top of the list of what I would do to this bike. The second thing is, if you look real close, I'm in gravel mode, okay? So power is 50%, engine braking is full, traction is 4 out of 5, no rear ABS. Now everyone says this is way too invasive and you need to turn all the computer aids off to use this off-road. Now again, remember, I haven't gone off-road, I'm not going off-road. If you pick one of the preset modes from Honda, I'm not finding it resetting every time. I turned it off on gravel mode, it turned back on gravel mode. Now let me switch the mode again. In user, 100% traction, less engine brake, no power. I mean, it's essentially another rain mode. But if you modified it, instead of the 4 out of 5 traction, can't you set it to 1 in traction? No rear ABS. Set it for full power, set it for low power, whatever we want. I would think the lowest possible traction is not that invasive. Make it a sport mode and just shut off rear ABS. Make your own custom mode, and instead of saying user, just tell yourself it's rally mode. So those are the 2 things. Now let's get more into, would I buy this bike? Even ignoring my financial situation, it's tough to decide, do I love this bike or not? I'm leaning towards yes, but there are some buts. If you watch part 4, where I say this is actually an expensive bike, there's more to it than the price tag would suggest. I really like this engine. One criticism some have is it doesn't have much low down torque. I like that. If I want more torque, I'll be in a lower gear. Look, more torque. I like that there's a choice to have low power immediately by just lowering the RPMs. Like the MT is always kind of, let's go. I like that I have a choice to wind it out like a sport bike, because again, the torquey MT, and from what I hear, the Suzuki's 800 engine, it falls off on the top. And I like to rev it out in the mountains, and then I like to keep it kind of low and smooth when I'm in the city. I don't need to jump out straight into traffic. It's got enough torque. You know, you can just full throttle it and half a second later, you've got the torque there. You're already halfway up the RPMs. I'm using nearly all of the chicken strips off these tires, and I'm enjoying that it's smooth. I love this throttle. I love the controls. I'm fine with this. I don't know what FN does. Again, I haven't played with stuff, but the effortless mode button, all the buttons are easy. The quality of the buttons, I mean, the quality of everything on this bike. I want to compare it a bit to my MT and my Tracer for a second. The things I did to the MT, it needed those things. It just was an unfinished bike in a lot of ways. The idea of living with it stock, awesome engine, no other redeeming quality, maybe the seating position for the right person, but like it's just the engine. The Tracer 900 GT, it didn't need a lot, but you could definitely do a lot. Like the places where Yamaha saved money on that bike were kind of just like right in your face every time Yamaha saved money on that Tracer. Even worse on the MT. But the Tracer wasn't necessarily really missing anything. Whereas compared to the Tracer, this doesn't have heated grips. This doesn't have a quick shifter. This doesn't have cruise control. This doesn't have fully adjustable suspension. It's not as complete, and yet the feeling is of a more complete, more thought out, better put together bike. You know, credit to Honda. See this tank that I left the tank key open? This tank is a tank. It's made of metal. Why are there covers? Like, this doesn't feel cheap. Nothing here makes me feel like I paid what I paid. It's like, it's so cheap. How did they do it? But then like on my Tracer, how did they save that money? I owned it for a week and pretty much had all my answers. Oh, that's how. I haven't played with this bike in the sense of let's take it apart, but like taking plastics off of my Yamahas, putting them back on, they never fit exactly right. And they were just so fiddly and breakable, it felt. Whereas this, from an outside view, nothing feels innately cheap, innately, oh, this is gonna break, oh, this is not gonna last. The first time I changed that, putting it back together is hopeless. Whereas like I was a Yamaha mechanic, surrounded by top-level Yamaha mechanics. The first time I took my tank covers off, they've never again gone back perfect. This doesn't feel that way, partly because there's not covers as much. So the quality, I mean, I'm preaching about the quality of a Honda. If I'm in the category of this bike and comparing it to, I guess, the KTM and the Aprilia, the reliability does stick in my head. I am into the reliability. I like Hondas. I am a bit of a fanboy. I like how all the buttons feel. I like how tactile everything feels. I like how you can take everything apart. I hate that I have to go aftermarket for things like cruise control when Honda makes cruise control. I will say with a but of saying that I know it's limited to over and under certain speeds, and I know Honda puts it right here, which I don't want to hold the throttle open and reach for the buttons. I would rather use 90% of the buttons over here. So I can custom put the switch wherever I want. Over this, over here, really wherever I want. I can drill a hole to make it look like it belongs here, but I would prefer OEM cruise. I wish it had integrated heated grips. I like how quickly I change modes, how easy, change them on the fly, let go of the throttle, you're in a new mode. There's little things I can never do to this bike. Those are little things that I wish I could. I'm sure with enough programming and risking ruining the computer over a minor convenience, going truly tubeless, it's either really expensive or you're trusting a tape. The biggest gripe in my head is, Honda, why won't you give us the Deluxe? And the thing is, when they give us the Deluxe, if it's anything like the Africa Twin, the Adventure Sport, you don't get to say, oh, I like that, and that. It's like, no, up until this year, you want tubeless wheels, you need the top-heavy 24-liter tank. You want electronic suspension? Heavy, top heavy. Do you want the taller adjustable windscreen? No. Well, guess what? Here's your taller adjustable windscreen. You don't get to choose. You get to go big or you get to go back. I actually like the demo mode on KTM because you get to pick and choose the finer details. I don't know that it is nickel and diming, though it is to say, you gave it to me, why are you disabling it? If I'm in this category, I haven't ridden the v-Strom, I don't like the Tenere, I don't have a car. So anyone who's going to tell me if you're going to get into off-road and you got to start with a dirt bike, I have to go like 2 hours on the highway out of Tokyo and then 2 hours back in every time I ride, not to mention the time it takes to find the off-road. I can't get a car, I can't afford the parking, I don't want it, I don't want to sit even longer in traffic because we've now chose a solution that deletes lane filtering. I have to get one bike that I use for everything, If I got to go somewhere in the city where a bike's more convenient, if I got to ride 2-up with my wife, or when my kid's old enough, if I'm going to go touring, if I want to ride kind of sporty, enjoy the twisty mountains when the weather's better than this, even with a proper dirt bike, I'm not going to go enduro. I'm going to find a gravel road on accident and be like, I guess. This is a bike that'll do all the things. That's cool. That right there is another reason I don't want to keep my sport bike. I would have been going so much faster on my Yamaha. I go on this road on my MT all the time, and I am just sliding the tires out. I'm in complete comfort. Even on my Tracer, I can't say that. The windscreens on the Tracer, yeah, you can go aftermarket, but the windscreens are just bananas. I ended up taking it off as the best solution and making this custom part. The MT, I go back and forth on the windshield. I think it's taking a bit of ache out. The MT, just the position doesn't lend itself to trips like this. Even if we forget comfort, the upright Tracer, it's still, maybe it's that engine, maybe it's, I don't know. It just was like, go, go, go. Can you drag a peg? Let's hear middle scrape. Which means you have no lean angle left. If that's gravel around that corner, go down. If that's ice, if there's a monkey in the street, if there's a dog in the street, whereas this bike, I could be going faster. I don't feel like I have to. This bike is gonna be way more likely to bring me home to my women every single ride. This bike, I can definitely say my CE tags are sticking out. I can definitely say there's things I hate Honda for on this bike, because it could be that just that little bit, that little tiny, if you just a little, give us the upgradable parts. But they won't. And they're not selling me an Africa Twin. If I was to think about this bike and imagine keeping one bike for 10 years, there's little things that are nuisance, like the heated grip thing, like there's no oil sight glass. You gotta use a dipstick for reasons. The ground clearance thing is nothing to me because you can get taller suspension. I've found you actually still have above average ground clearance. And to me, this isn't the bike you're going rock crawling on. I know someone in the comment section is disagreeing. The only things I can think of that 10 years from now, I might really think, boy, I wish the bike had that, and there's no way I can do it, is adaptive cruise. I might be wrong 5 years from now. Someone might come out with an adaptive cruise aftermarket. That'd be cool. But I don't know that that's make or break for me. If I suddenly feel like, this bike, but if it had a little more back road performance, find some 17-inch rims and re-spoke these hubs. That is the best thing about spoke wheels. There's a million ways to pick different wheel sizes. Honda won't make the Transalp SMT, so I will. Or maybe, I'm happy like this. Or maybe I do gravel roads and I like the SMT idea. You know what? V-Strom's figured it out in 1917. GS has been doing that since always for a reason. Whatever it is, whatever I change about this bike, whatever I regret, whatever I miss, this bike can be made into it. And it's a Honda. So whatever I'm going to do to this bike, I don't have to worry, is it gonna screw up the computers and go explode? And yeah, there's a chance it will. But even if I didn't live in Tokyo, Japan, even if I lived in the middle of no one can even point at my continent on the map based on the name I gave, the parts are not going to be that expensive comparatively. They're not going to be that long a wait. They're not going to be that far away. Even if they get flown in, there's going to be enough people getting the parts flown in. This bike is loud enough to make me giggle. Not loud enough to wake up the monkeys, scare the neighbors. Center stand, fine, do it as an extra. All those costs that you have to do as an extra to this bike, when I say over 10 years, anything I would do to this bike is worth it. Because it's kept me on the same bike for 10 years instead of changing because I keep going for what I can afford. That's a halfway, it's I can make it that, I can ... And then it reaches a limit. This bike, for the street, doesn't have a limit. For Japan, a problem I had with the Tracer, too much power for my responsibility maturity level. A problem I had with my current MT, it hits a power ceiling. This is right in the middle. This is right in the middle on everything. It's right in the middle on weight. It's right in the middle on power. It's right in the middle on fuel economy. It's right in the middle of everything. It is just proper. I'll say it rides the highway better than my Tracer. My understanding is the newer Tracer's doing better, but gosh, this is just a good way to spend my day. I'm beating around the bush, I'm rambling. There's something about this bike, be it a Honda, be it such a modifiable platform, so comfortable, so fun, yet non-life-threatening comparatively. I'm still a bike. Would I buy it? Thinking that I could actually keep one bike until it dies, thinking 20 years from now that day hasn't even come yet, it just, when I meet people on 40-year-old bikes who are the first owner, it's like, wow, I want to be you. Instead, I've had 4 bikes in Japan. This does feel different. This doesn't feel like something I'll regret. I like the idea of the gray and the black only because Honda said I can't have it in Japan, but actually I'd pick the white because I like white bikes. I like the cockpit. I like the point of view. Originally, I was gonna say I want to look back at the Tracer, but I want my point of view to be this. But now that I've played with this a fair bit, I no longer believe that. I like looking back at this too. I really like the way this looks. It's grown on me by the minute. I like every angle of this. I think I'd still do a tail tidy. So would I buy this? Well, probably. If my financial situation suddenly improves and I switch into a better job, I'd probably finance this as quick as possible, and there'd be a for sale sticker on my MT-07 right away. I don't want to keep sounding like the MT's bad. It's just, this is going to end up being 12 hours in the saddle. If Honda didn't give me a curfew, this might be a 16-hour day. I know that's not a good idea. You don't have to tell me, but it's just what I do. It makes me alive. I'd love to say I did 1,000 kilometers today because I'm a fool. This is a bike that can be what I want. Over time, I can turn into anything. I can regret it and change my mind in 5 years, find the extra cash, change it again. Not to say, hey, everyone, like and subscribe, give me attention. But if you do like and subscribe enough that these videos were profitable, that this channel's profitable enough, that the algorithm tells me buying this bike and doing my, so far I've not seen them on the internet, modifications that I want to do to this bike, I'll find a way to get it. And I'll do this Kairyu rider style. I will throw the kitchen sink at this bike in an affordable DIY kind of way that I've become known for on my channel, for good or for bad. I will do the budget aluminum exhaust from Amazon or whatever, I don't know. I'd have to play with it once I got it, but I hated this bike when I got home last night from the city ride, and then I realized I can't ride it like a sport bike. I have to ride it like a Transalp. And I want to do that. There's one more installment in this series. It's just the raw ride around Okutama. I'm going to take a rest in this area real quick. But thank you for watching. Here I go again on my own. Doom, 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 going down the only road I'll ever know. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. And I know what it means to walk alone on the lonely street of dreams.